Okay, we've got about 2 minutes after the hour. So welcome everyone. You're in the right place for the Maximizing Provider Outcomes, IT's role in PXP portal problem solving. Thank you for joining our webinar today. Everybody is in listen only mode. If you have any questions, please feel free to submit those in the questions window box. We will get to those hopefully at the end of the presentation. If not, we'll follow up with you. You'll receive a recording of it in a email with a link in the next day or so. Let's go ahead and move forward. Maximizing provider outcomes, IT's role in PXP portal problem solving. All right, today our presenters are Dr. Gary Waticha. He's our CMO here at MTS. And then we have Robert Woolley, who's one of our EHR consultants. I'll pass it over to you guys.
Great. Thank you, Holly. Hi, everybody. Dr. Gary here. It's great to spend this time with you. And we're going to be going over a number of things today. So sit back, maybe keep a pencil handy, but more importantly, just listen and go along. You will get a copy of this. So the objectives for this presentation today is you probably have the PXP portal and you know that it is a beneficial tool for your practices to work with your patients. And for that to happen, I'm going to say this over and over. If it isn't up, it's not working, it's not giving you the benefits. So we're going to talk a little bit about the benefits. We're going to give you some knowledge of things that we have gained, or I should say Robert gained it because, I am really a provider and not a tech person, but things that he's learned and the way that he helps our clients keep this up and running so that you can keep your systems up and running. We're going to give some troubleshooting skills, and then we're going to just talk about some things about how do you make this effectively work within your organization. So we're going to start off. Let's give or get some perspective on the benefits of having the portal. If you have the portal, you'll probably already know this stuff. If you haven't gotten the portal yet, these are some things, some benefits that you can get from having an active portal, having your patients use the portal within your practice. So from the provider's viewpoint, the portal is a way for a provider to be in contact with their patients. It really helps optimize that patient engagement experience. It helps you streamline your operations because things that you used to have to send out or get on the phone about can actually be handled with the portal. It's great for helping you improve your outcomes because it moves your patient into the role of being their own advocate. And it makes things more effective because you're not sending out the paper. You're not doing that. You can do a lot of communications within your portal. There's a lot of data handling capabilities within your portal, and you're going to see that there are a lot of things you can learn about your patient population and the way they interact with you. And then the other part there is that it is a secure mechanism. It is going to keep your patients and your practice safe, and it allows you to truly collaborate with your patients with their care. From a patient's point of view, let's flip over to all of us have been patients at some point in our life. It allows for that help management of your healthcare, gets you involved. It helps with your communication. I never seem to need my doctor's or provider's office while I'm awake in the middle of the day because I'm at work. But at 2 in the morning or 11 o'clock, yeah, I have weird hours at times. I may want to send something before I go to work or after I get home or done my work for the day. I can do that with the portal. And so having the portal up and running really helps with that communication. It can get you to educational materials. It allows you as a patient to see your finances and to pay your bills online. You're not doing this during business hours. You can do it when it's convenient for you. And you can also, if you have remote care, a portal can, if it's set up and if your portal, and this is a general statement, but if your portal allows you to do any of that remote care stuff, you can integrate it in with a portal as well. But everything with this is evolving. It really helps a patient take control of their health care. Once again, got to say it, if your benefits are going to be realized, your portal has to be up and running. If it is down, if it's not fully functional, then the benefits I just went over aren't working or not being realized. So we're going to start off getting into some PXP portal basics here. And hey, Robert, how you doing today?
Doing great. How are you?
I'm doing just fantastic. So let's get started with the basics of the portal. And you
Sure.
said there are 4 applications that make up the PXP portal?
That is correct. You have patient portal. That's what the patient sees. You have site generator, practice portal, and the patient portal integration tool, which I'll call PPIT from here on out because that's what everyone else calls it. Patient portal integration tool is a mouthful. So PPIT from here on out.
Okay, so there are 4 parts to this, and you have to basically make sure all of those are up and running. So tell me a little bit more about these. What's
Well,
this?
this is the patient portal. This is what the patient sees. So what they see is dependent upon what you have, which solutions you have enabled. So at a high level, so the patient can come here to their home screen and they can click on these icons. They can view their appointments. They can see their past appointments as well as the future appointments they have scheduled. They can come and view their medications as well as request refills. They can view their health records as well as download them and send them to another provider, or they can email them, and they can send messages to the clinic using the solution Ask a Question.
Great. So whatever you see here, you're saying, Robert, whatever's turned on here is what the practice is actually turned on for their patients, correct?
That's correct.
Okay, great. So, oh wow, this is a voice from my past. This is the inbox. What do you want to tell me about this?
So when a patient sends a message using that Ask a Question solution, this is where those messages go. They go to your workflow inbox, and then there is a patient portal tab there. And then on the left side, we have 4 sections. So your ask a questions will come into that communication side, which is highlighted right now. And if you have refill messages, requests enabled, they will go into that section, as well as appointments and then forms.
Great. So what do these 2 buttons do?
So that's the main screen for when you need to log into Site Generator or Practice Portal. It's web-based and it's a link. So on the left side, that Site Generator, that's the look and feel of Portal. So any edits you make here, say like to your physicians or your locations, then that will become visible on the portal. This is also where you can go in and view like who is using the portal, which features are being used the most or least by utilization reports. And then you can also send messages on the homepage of the portal called broadcast messages.
Okay.
If you'll go right back up, skip ahead, look, there's a practice portal side right there. So that is your troubleshooting side of the portal. This is your home for troubleshooting. This is where you'll go to maybe resend portal invites. This is where if you need to resend an invitation or verify an email address or their user ID, that's where you'll do it. You can also set up Guardian accounts and you can deactivate patients in Practice Portal. BPIT, this is the rules engine that drives Portal. So here is where you can enable or disable more advanced solutions of the portal. If you want to set up automatic invitations that go to the patient, you would do that here in PPIT. You can reconcile demographic changes that maybe the patient has updated their phone number. They come to PPIT to where then you can go to the review queue and reconcile it, and that'll send it over to the EHR. And then again, this is where you can enable invites.
Great. So I see the words restarting services. Why would you restart services, or what's this all about?
Well, in a perfect world, the next gen portal would just be running 24/7, and I wouldn't have a job because I wouldn't have to come in and troubleshoot anything.
Okay.
So unfortunately, computers, sometimes the communication breaks and we need to go and restore that communication. So in order to do that, you need to have access to your PXP services and your next-gen API services. Typically, they are on separate servers, but they don't have to be. But you would need to know which server your PXP services are on, your next-gen API services on. And then in order to restore that communication, you want to restart them in a required sequence or in a very specific order. And that's the most efficient way to restore communication.
Okay.
So in this screenshot, I'm showing you what your PXP services look like. So when you open up services on that server, you'll just scroll down this list and you're just looking for the ones that start with PXP. PXP connector service, the one that's highlighted, that is kind of the main one that communicates between the portal and all your next-gen databases. But there are also 4 more services in there that will need to be restarted, and I'll go over a little bit later exactly which order we want to do it. But those are what your PXP services look like.
Okay.
And here is another screenshot of the next-gen APIs. Again, it's going to be on typically your next-gen API server. But the main call out I wanted to show you here is it looks pretty wordy and complicated, but the beginning right there, the words that are in brackets, that's going to be like the main server where NextGen is connected to. But if I can just draw your focus to where you see the words nextgen.api, that's what you want to look for. And then those are the services that we're going to restart on the next screen. So in order to restore the communication, the services need to be stopped and started in a very specific order. The PXP connector service on that screenshot there is the main one for the portal. The next-gen API.edge, that's the main one for the next-gen enterprise. But the most efficient way to stop and start this is you want to start with your PXP services, and the first thing you want to do is stop the PXP connector service. And then you'll just go down that list. You'll stop the PXP Health Service, the PXP MF API, which is the MedFusion API service, and the PXP NG API or the NextGen API. And you want to stop those and make sure that those are stopped. Once those are stopped, then you will go to the server that hosts the APIs, and then you'll want to restart those services from the top all the way down to the bottom. So once you restart them, you're stopping the service and then you're starting it back up again. But your PXP connector services are still stopped, so you'll go back to that server and you'll start at the bottom this time. First one you want to start is the PXP NextGen API. Start that one, and then verify that's running. Move up to the MedFusion API. Start that one. The health service, restart that one. And then last but not least is the PXP connector service. Once you start that one, that should restore all your communications, and then everything hopefully is back up and running.
So what happens if you don't go in the sequence?
It may not restore the communication properly.
Okay, so you want to do the sequence.
Correct.
Okay, so let's talk about updating the PXP connector. What exactly is a PXP connector again?
So think of this as like an app that you would have on your phone. Every once in a while, you get the latest updates from that app. It's the same thing with the PXP connector. So on the PXP server, you'll see an icon that's that little dark screenshot right over there. So that's also a good way to tell that you're on the PXP server, because you'll see that icon every time. And then you'll just update it like you would like any other app. You just kind of take the defaults and go next.
So why do you have to update it? why do you have to update it? I mean, why isn't it just automatic, and how frequently you have to
Well,
do
you
that?
want to update it because NextGen is constantly working on stability fixes. So they're working to improve the stability, make sure that everything is reliable, everything goes through, and then all the known issues that have come out in the previous updates that they fix. This is how they get the updates out to the server, is through these updates.
Are they sending one of these a week? How frequent is it?
Typically, it comes once a month. It can vary. If it's something urgent, it can come out pretty quick, and sometimes it can be 6, 7 weeks before the next update comes out.
Do you have to take every one, or can you hold off and take the next one? How does that work? Is it
Sure, I mean you can hold off on it, of course, but then you're not getting the best bang for your buck out of the portal. So I would take every update, but I wouldn't always take them on day one.
why not? Why wouldn't you take it as soon as it comes out?
Well, sometimes when they're testing, and I'm not picking on NextGen, but sometimes when you're testing like in-house, you can test, maybe get 100 people on there, but it's a much different load on the system when there's 1,000 people using it or 10,000 people using on it. And so the problems that you see that are scaled up don't always reflect when they initially release it. So once it kind of gets out there to the public, I personally like to wait a few days, check out on chatter, make sure there's no yelling and screaming out there saying it's not working. Once it seems stable, then I like to go ahead and take the update. But I like to wait 3, 4 days before,
Okay.
after it comes out.
So this is an auto. You really don't want to auto update. You want to wait for it to come out, go to the
Correct.
chatter, see what people are saying, and then take it into
So
your environment.
yeah, by default, they want you to auto update, but there's not a lot of intelligence in that software to make sure that when everybody is off of the server, even though it does kind of come around like at 2 in the morning, Dr. Gary's always out there working those late hours. And so you need people off it. Sometimes your services windows can be open and then that can cause problems. So it's just best to deselect that update automatically and then manually update it when you kind of have more control over it.
Sounds good. So failed messages or message not going into my inbox. Wow, that happens in my Yahoo or my Outlook account. So on this is clinical, patient information and things like that. So why would it fail? Why would a message fail?
The most common reason your messages have failed is because your PXP services have stopped, or maybe your API services have got stuck somehow, and they just need to be resynced to make those messages go.
Okay.
Another common reason would be that your user ID is not mapped in Site Generator. There's a program called the Data Sync utility that brings over providers, staff, locations, and pharmacies, but it doesn't always bring 100% of everything over, and sometimes you have to add people manually. And when you do that, it doesn't always bring the user ID into Site Generator. In order for messages to go, you need to map in Site Generator the user ID that's in System Administrator. So those two have to communicate, and then your messages will go.
Good.
Another reason can be the changes in the routing rule from PPIT. There's a lot of occurrences where, so when I use ask a question and I'm going to send to the staff, we know that maybe Dr. Gary's not always going to be right on the spot and checking his messages, so we want to maybe send it to his nurse. And so we've added in PPIT a routing rule to go to Nurse Betty. Well, if Nurse Betty leaves and a new employee comes in, that new employee's not getting those messages delivered via PPIT. And so we'll want to update the routing rule in PPIT to get those messages. But as a best practice to avoid that, if you can create like work groups for your messages, and then when people come and go, you can just update the work group, and you don't have to go into PPIT to change those routing rules.
Okay.
And then lastly, the security rights in system administrator. So this is rare that this happens, but sometimes an employee will suddenly take on a new role, like we need you to go into PPIT and reconcile the demographic changes that are coming across. Well, that new role, maybe their permissions didn't get updated in system administrator. And so we just want to make sure that they have the right security rights in system administrator so they can access and go in and do their function as well as the messages.
Okay. So here's services have stopped, and you spoke a little bit about this, but I have some questions for you, Robert.
Oh,
If
no.
the services stopped, and it's quite frankly, I'm a provider. If the services have stopped, how would I know?
Well, there is a tool that's available for you in PPIT that can check the services for you. I believe that's on the next slide down. And so this was created to help you check for that, because that has been a problem. How do we find out if our services have stopped? So they've created this. So if you can go into PPIT, that little last spoke icon there brings you to here. And what you want to see is all my services are green. That means that they're running and NextGen is able to detect it. If you see anything red, that's an indication that, hey, maybe the PXP Med Fusion service is down, or my Edge, my API Edge service is not running. If you cannot log into PPIT and you see a 500 error every time you try to get in, then that is a strong indicator that your PXP connector service is down. So you won't be able to get in to see it, but your big clue is that you can't log into PPIT.
So as the provider, if I'm not getting messages, then I would either somebody would give me the ability to get in here, but more likely I wouldn't be getting messages, so I would be telling my staff to do something. What I know about providers is they get so many messages from so many different ways that they probably wouldn't even notice it. So it's really Nurse Mary. I got rid of Nurse Betty. I have Nurse Mary, and I'm glad you updated her profile there and gave her, security rights. But so she would know, or he, my MA would know, my nurse, or is it a good practice just to have the people who are managing your portal come in here on an ongoing basis to make sure everything is green? What do you
Yes.
suggest?
Yeah, it's a good advice. You do need to go into PPIT because there is a section there called the review queue. So when I go into the portal and I put in make some small changes to my demographics, so they go to a spot called the review queue that you can accept or reject. And if you accept them, they'll cross over into the EHR. So while they're in there, it's just one little click, and then they can view the screen right there.
That's great advice. That's great advice. So my user ID is not mapped in Site Generator. And you gave some ideas on how this happened. And what's going on for the patient with all of this? Would a patient know that the person they're sending to is not mapped in the Site Generator?
The patient, no, but they're not going to get messages, but they're not going to know that the messages are due to the errors in the site generator. But if you're seeing failures in your portal inbox, message failed to send, that's a strong hint to me that the first place I'm going to look is I'm going to make sure that you're mapped in site generator. And in this screenshot, I just have a list of the personnel. In this example, I've highlighted Jessica Bush and then highlighted the mappings. And I just want to make sure that I see a value in there. This value is 3, but a lot of times it can be like 4-digit number in there. If you see it blank, then it's not mapped, and then that's more than likely the problem.
Okay. And then changes in routing rules.
So this is just a screenshot of what I was talking about. So the top one over there is your message routing that you can see. And then when I've expanded to like this Ask a Nurse down below, so you can see that NextGen admin, that's an example of like a single user that if when I send a message to Ask a Nurse, it's going to go to a nursing work group, and it's going to go to NextGen admin. But
Okay.
if you can, in all cases, just kind of keep the single user out of that routing rule and use the work group like nursing. You can name these whatever you want.
Yeah, so you're saying nursing, it could be MA group, it could be, whatever you want to do it, but it's always better to have a group because that way, if you give your MA off a day, somebody else can handle it for you, right?
Exactly. And a common naming convention that I see is people usually put PXP in the beginning, like PXP refills or something like that, and it kind of distinguishes it from other areas of the system.
Oh, okay, great. And then security.
All right, so just like that new user that may need got promoted to be able to go check for portal, this is an example of the permissions that they need to have. I got a screenshot here just filtering down to the patient portal filters, and you just want to make sure that anything that's related to the patient portal, they have full access rights.
Okay, so this doesn't just happen. This is and as you're setting things up, you didn't give them the person the access rights they needed, right?
Sure, or they got a promotion, and so they've moved up, but then their permissions and system administrator didn't get updated as well.
Okay. So all four of these things are human intervention. These are four different ways or four different places you should go if messages aren't coming through to make sure that something wasn't done to these areas. Is that a good way to summarize what we just went through?
That's an excellent way to summarize
Great. I'm getting better at this, Robert.
it. Okay.
So are these your favorite tools?
They are, because I'm a nerd and these are what I use the most. So if someone's saying, I have a patient that's said they've sent 3 messages to us and we haven't received any of them. So one of the things I can do is I can go into Practice Portal. That's my troubleshooting application. And then I can pull up the patient within the patient dashboard. That screenshot on the left, if you go down to the bottom, what I want to see is, did they really send those messages? And if I see messages there, then I know they at least went from the portal to NextGen. If I don't see anything in there, then I'd be like, are you sure you sent it? Because I don't see anything in there. And if they're in there, well, then it's most probably related to your services being down, or maybe you're not mapped in Site Generator and those messages aren't getting to you. So that's a good starting point. And then this one is really for the IT nerds in the crowd right over here. If you have access to PPIT and you can use the admin new credential, that's the only credential that will allow you into the system administrator, then you can go into the setting over here, which is your runtime configuration. And then what you're looking for is, when was the last time the system sent messages over to the inbox? And so I've got a bottom screenshot of message underscore inbound fetch key. It's just a complicated way to say, when was the last time these messages were sent over to the inbox? And then you're going to have a date and timestamp. If this was the most recent timestamp on there, I'd be a little worried because messages haven't been sent in quite a long time.
Okay.
And they're going to be like in UDT time, or formerly Greenwich time. So depending on your time zone, it's always going to be like several hours ahead of you, just as an FYI.
Oh, that's great. And then over here where it says recent encounters, as a provider, I see that and say, oh, you're talking about a clinical encounter with a provider, but this is really recent encounters is things sent by the patient.
Correct. Those are your ask a staff questions. You can see there's ask a nurse, ask a provider. So those
Okay,
are all the ones that I've sent with the date and timestamp on there.
great. Uh-oh, I see the word errors and proxy. My blood pressure just went up. What are you showing us here?
Well, your blood pressure and a lot of other people's blood pressure. So from time to time, depending on the system and the load, sometimes the communication between the web-based applications and the main server can break, and then that will give you proxy errors. And sometimes you can just refresh your screen and that will work. And then there's other times where that's just never going to work. You're just going to see that proxy error over and over and over again. And so the best way to resolve that is you need to clear the cache that's in your browser. NextGen recommends either Chrome or Edge as your browsers that they support. And then here's just some screenshots of where to go to where you can clear the cache that's in your browser.
Go incognito. You want them to become spies? What are you talking about here?
Well, they don't have to be spies necessarily, but sometimes the problem can be persistent, and a lot of times it's due to caching. So if clearing your cache doesn't work, then your next option is to then go into use incognito mode. In Chrome, it's in private browsing in Edge. And so what that does is just opens up a new browser, but it doesn't allow the browser to save any cache. And so it kind of runs more efficiently. So those are the best ways to clear proxy errors.
Oh, okay, great. Okay, permission. So this is how you set up various people to be able to, get in there and support. So this setup here is not for the nursing staff and the provider, but this is for your individuals that are responsible for supporting the rest of the practice. Am I right or am I wrong with that?
No, you're right. So if you're going to be responsible for troubleshooting issues that come along with the portal, by default, you have a limited access. And so if you want to give yourself more access, you have to set up permissions for yourself or for a user that you want to delegate for that. And so I'm going to walk you through that process.
Okay, great.
So first thing I just want to start with is I get this question a lot in the beginning. So why can't I log in the practice portal? Well, the number one reason I get is people are trying to log in using your next-gen credentials on the EMR or EHR or PM, and it's a different set of credentials to use that. So in that top screenshot there, the DSU, the data sync utility, brings over the people and they create this very unique user ID format over here. So your user ID to log into both Site Generator and the Practice Portal is typically going to look something like this. The only exception is going to be is that if you are a group site administrator, then NextGen would have emailed you a very unique credential that won't look like that, but typically it'll have maybe the first few initials of your practice and uppercase letters and then admin next to it. And then that would be a group site administrator. Everybody else is going to have a user ID that looks something like that, something horrible.
Okay.
And then, so going back to adding permissions in Practice Portal. So this middle screenshot, this is an example of a generic setup, and it depends on what you have. You may not even have patient forms enabled, and it can be something very simple like this. But usually you would just have those two tabs. And in the bottom screenshot, you can see that there's 7 tabs over there with 7 different solutions that I can troubleshoot. So what I would like to do is I'm going to walk you through how I could add myself to a permission under Ask a Question called Ask a Nurse. And I'll tell you how to do that. On the left screenshot, that's from Site Generator, and that's the main starting point to how you get into your permissions. I typically like to hit that Manage Solutions there at the very top, and then when I do that, it opens up that screenshot to the right. And then you can see that there's 4 categories there that we can filter. So when you choose that first one where it says your personnel types, there are technically there's 3 group site administrators, but the main 2 that you're going to use is going to be your physicians are going to be kind of one bucket, and every other person is going to be in the category called other. And then when you choose other, then everything is going to populate out for you. And then it's this point that usually gets some confusion. And on the next slide, we have a screenshot that shows you that I've chosen my personnel type of other, and then everything is all. And then just to keep it simple, I just have 2 solutions there, but it's giving me everyone that can have access to the appointment request solution and then the Ask a Nurse. The problem with this is that if you look at the appointment request, you can see that I have options to accept, to view in the process, but under Ask a Nurse, I only have one option, which is to enable. But if I click enable, what I'm actually doing there is I'm adding my name to the provider drop-down list that's visible to the patients when they log into Portal. And we don't want to do that, so we have to dig an extra step, which typically causes a lot of confusion in the very beginning. I'll show you how to drill down further. So in this screenshot here, you can see that I still have my personnel type of other, but for my available solution, I have chosen the specific one that I'm working with, which is Ask a Nurse. And my locations, I can leave it to all locations. And then for this example, I've just picked me, but you can do multiples at a time. Just for simplicity, I'm just choosing myself. And then when that will display something that looks like this, and now you can see that I now have that view process option. So when I select view process, now I've added myself to be able to troubleshoot any Ask a Nurse questions that come along without enabling myself to be visible on the portal. And in this screenshot over here, so you can see that we had like 2, and so now you could do them one by one. So you have my Ask a Question. If I wanted to see all my patient activation reports, I would just choose that solution, and I would do the same thing for prescription renewal forms, and then family management is where you add your guardian accounts, trusted representative.
Okay. So utilization reports, give me a high level of what a utilization report is for this solution, and then we can jump into some of the examples and then go from there.
Sure, it's who's using what on the portal. What type of engagement are your patients having? So you can see here's just a quick list of some of the utilization reports, and the next screenshots will just kind of highlight some of them.
Oops.
So we can go to the next slide.
Yeah.
So these are located in Site Generator, and so this is just a screenshot where you can find your utilization reports highlighted there at the bottom in yellow, and then on the right, it's just kind of a magnified view. So you'll want to go to utilization reports. And then it's going to give you a Dead Sea Scroll list of things that you can look at. And so here's an example of your total portal patients. So that summary right there is telling me that we have 12,549 patients that have enrolled in the portal for the life of the portal. And then below that just gives you a little snapshot of how many have enrolled for this month and the previous 2 months over there. And then it's always going to show you patients that are activated from invitations. Currently, that's the only way you can join portal is through an invitation. So you can't create your own account. So they'll always say 0.
Okay.
All right, and so another report that you can view, this here is showing you all your total patient portal invitations that have gone out, and then versus those that have actually accepted and enrolled in the portal. And if you look at the bottom, it's allowing you to view the last 12 quarters, months, weeks, and days. In this particular example, I'm viewing everything by the days. And so you can see on that bar graph that were around like 750 invitations were sent out. And very hard to see, but there's a little tiny green bar at the very top. And then those invites that come out, only a small handful have actually activated the portal. And that's normal. You're going to usually see like a 4 to 5 ratio of invitations that have gone out versus those that are waiting for the patient to enroll. So another useful utilization report is you can find out in the ask a question solution, you can see how many secure messages have been sent by the patient to your practice. In this view, we're looking at how many messages were sent out by month.
Okay.
And so, and your total, oh, sorry.
Oh, go ahead.
No, I was going to just say, and your total is 2,434.
And then these others are the totals, right?
Yeah, they're the totals by month.
Got it.
And you can change that filter to weekly. So in this case, I'm looking at a weekly view of secure messages that have been sent from the practice back to the patient. So this is your responses to your ask a questions that gone to the email or gone to your inbox and that you replied back. But these will also include what they call practice initiated communications. You want to see if your patients are engaged and viewing their health record. This will let you know by day. Again, you can change these to any type of format you want, weekly, monthly, but this one is showing you by day how many times your patients have gone into the portal and viewed their personal health record.
So this one here is an interesting one because of prescription renewal, and just looking at this, and this is made up data and stuff like that, but you can kind of see when patients started to begin to ask for prescriptions to be renewed. And this is a time saver. Instead of calling you and saying I need another prescription, or waiting for SureScripts, the pharmacy to send it back, you're actually able to see where the patient proactively took control and said, I need a refill. And so this is showing that this is becoming more popular. A great thing to do is if you're working with your patient population, and I've done this with many years ago with the original NextGen portal, a little harder to work with NextMD, but we used to do campaigns to get people to renew their, to do their renewals, or to send in questions, or to get tests done and things like that. This is a great way. You initiate, you do a campaign, and then you look to see how effective your messaging to your patients is. So you can use this data from these utilization reports in many different ways. What's this? It says new.
Yes, so with a release that came out a couple of weeks ago, they've added a new ability to view test results. So that is a new feature that's added into your utilization reports. I kind of looked around to see if anyone had any data to kind of show something, but it's too new for the reports because it's probably looking at older data to bring that over.
Yep.
It was
That's
made in April.
There, right, Robert? That's
yes.
Not something to turn on.
That's correct. It automatically does it.
Great. Password resets. Resend the invite. This causes some blood pressure issues. So patient forgot their password, or somebody forgot their password. So what does this look like?
So because in Practice Portal, probably the most common request that you're probably going to get is that the patient is probably asking, can you resend the invite to me? You sent it 3 months ago, but I ignored it and I deleted it, but I want to join now. And so you would go into Practice Portal, bring that patient up, and then from the patient dashboard, it's from here where you can resend that portal invitation. That's happens very frequently. And you can also come in here. You can see that you can send the password reset to the patient, but it's also here to where you can deactivate the patient as well.
Okay. And when would you delete a patient? It's they asked, because you would deactivate a patient typically, right?
So
If they said they didn't want to use it anymore, correct?
Correct. The recommended workflow is to not delete the patient, because if they ever change their mind, then that information is gone. So if they say, hey, remove me from the portal, I'm never going to ever log in there and never going to use it, no matter what they say, just always deactivate.
Okay, great. Okay, so that takes us through our presentation. Holly, do we have any questions? Are there any questions that came through?
We do have a couple. So let me start with this one. How can I easily get to PPIT?
So there's two ways that you can get to PPIT. So if you have access to the PXP server, you can use Chrome or Edge, and as long as you have that link, which typically there's usually put a shortcut during the installation, you can get to it from there. And then from the EHR, if you go to File System Templates, then there's also a shortcut link that'll take you to PPIT from within the EHR. So you don't actually need to be on the PXP server. You can also get there from the EHR.
Great. And I have another one. Why do non-providers appear in the portal?
It's probably like, why do for non-providers, it's probably they need to be there to support the staff. So that's why they show up there. Or if you're talking about non-providers showing up on the drop-down in the portal, it's because their solutions are configured incorrectly. And you'll need to make sure that that's not enabled or accept for that solution, but rather view process. It's probably that the last one I'm talking about is the reason.
So that's where you went through and showed how to set it up, and you said if you just click here, you'll enable it, and that'll pull you onto the pick lists and things to appear for the patient. And that's why you showed that second method where, you know, how to get in there to get to the, you know, view it, access it, right?
Correct.
Okay, great. Anything
Okay,
else, Holly?
I just have a couple more. How do I update the routing rules when I get a new employee?
The routing rules, so that's in PPIT. So there's a section there for your routing rules, and then by default, it just opens up that says ask a nurse, ask a provider, or whatever you name that rule. So then you just have to expand it, and then there's a little button that where you can say add routing rule, and then you can choose, you know, person, user group, or even like a system group there. Don't use that one, but yeah, it's from PPIT.
Okay. And then the other question, I had somebody ask to look at some more details. I'm not sure which section they were looking at. Mary Lou, if you want to put in the chat what details you wanted us to review again, we can go back to that, but that was the last one I had.
Okay. We'll give her a moment to do that. But as we're doing that, I just wanted to thank everybody that has spent time with us today and listen to this. Any questions you have, feel free to reach out to us. And has anything come through, Holly?
I got to thank you. I
You're
got to
welcome.
You're
thank you.
welcome.
Oh, yeah. And then Mary Lou says, when the patients send a message and we don't get it in the inbox, we go to the practice portal.
Well, there's a bunch of options. So if you go to the practice portal, that's where you can verify that they actually did send a message. Sometimes, there's like 2 clicks, in order to send that, and they think they sent it, but they haven't. So going to the practice portal is a way to verify that they did send that message and it did come to NextGen. If that did happen and it didn't go to the inbox, then we have to check PPIT to make sure that the routing rules are correct. Is it just this one particular patient? Is it like no messages are coming in? So there's a bunch of options. It could be that your PXP services are down. It could be who is that message is supposed to be delivered to. Their ID is not mapped in there. But those are places where you want to start.
Yeah, because I
Never,
think they're saying that when they go to the portal, they don't see the message. So it looks like maybe they need some more investigation to find that message.
correct.
Okay, so we might, I'll note that we might want to do a follow-up to help you guys figure that out. It sounds
Sure.
like there might be a little bit more exploring to go there.
I do that all day.
They see the message, but we can't see what the patient wrote.
It's blank. Well, yeah, I'm gonna have to try. That's not something I can really answer like right here.
Yeah,
I'd have
yeah,
to take a
it
look.
sounds like this is a takeaway that we might need to help you guys look at that a little bit further. So I'll make sure that we follow up and see if that's something that we can help you with and get a look at it. I was kind of wondering if it would be in the presentation or a one-off. So sounds like that. So definitely we'll follow up.
That
And
would
as
be like
Dr.
a
Gary,
ticket that gets assigned to me.
yeah. Great. Awesome. And again, thank you everyone for your attending. As Dr. Gary said, we thank you for your time. I know it was a lot of info. Hopefully you guys got some good info today. I'm sure you did. Feel free to reach out to us if you have any questions. If you know your rep, feel free to go directly, or you can email info@medtechsolutions.com, and we'll always have somebody follow up with you. Look for the link tomorrow and with the recording and the presentation. Let us know where else we can help you. Also, feel free to follow us on all the social media platforms. We are out there on Facebook, LinkedIn, Instagram, and we have a YouTube page with a bunch of videos. We'd love to have y'all take a look.
Thank you.
Everyone have a great day. And thank you again, Dr. Gary and Robert, for your presentation. It was a great presentation today.
Great. Thank you, everybody. Have a wonderful day.